Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
What's happening, folks? Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. I am Jeff Sharon, along with Eric Lopez in our special tropical edition of the podcast. Eric, I know that it's, you're not supposed to make light of this situation, obviously, with Hurricane Irma kind of bearing down on us and ripping its way through the Caribbean right now. But, it's just kind of a weird situation once again that we find ourselves in, where we got a storm coming our way that's gonna probably cause some significant damage if things go a certain way here. But yeah, here we are. We're going to knock out this podcast really quickly for you to try and give you the best update that we can. Leading up to the recently moved UCF game against Memphis. So, Eric, do you have all your canned goods all set?
Yeah, man, I got the food, I got flashlights. I mean, the thing I don't get, by the way, and I've been driving around and I get it. We went through a hurricane last year, right? With Matthew, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, in Orlando, yes, technically, but we had to prepare one, right?
That's what I meant. I didn't mean you literally, but I'm saying you had to do preparation last year with Matthew because a lot of people thought Matthew was going to be hitting the state, and it really wasn't until the last hour where it kind of hooked more towards the coastal line, where it, fortunately from an Orlando standpoint, not necessarily good for the coastals.
Right.
But the thing I don't get, didn't you guys get flashlights last year? I don't understand. Did you run out of material? That's kind of what I'm confused about a little bit.
I was actually relieved, because I actually was able to dust off a bunch of my supplies that I had from last from last year. I think the big problem that we're seeing right now, at least where I live up in Oviedo, is shortages of fuel at gas stations and shortages of drinking water. Again, I maybe I'm just, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but we have bottled water. We buy bottled water on a consistent basis, but more so to just keep just in case. Right.
And then there, the news, if depending on what you have, you can actually fill up water yourself and kind of freeze it. So I'm kind of surprised.
If you have all the containers, of course.
Which, I guess we do.
Yeah.
My point is, this is not the first drill. So I'm a little surprised that we go through this every year. We have batteries, we have all that. There's certain things obviously that certainly you maybe don't have, but some of it you don't control. But I have been surprised, I guess I don't know if hectic is the word, but it's been busy, which has surprised me. The gas stuff doesn't surprise me, although. For people that actually might be going to the football game, you probably, I think there'll be gas around. It's going to be interesting, but it's just been an interesting week from that standpoint. So just remember, whatever happens, hopefully things go well, and we don't know, but don't give up your supplies is my point. Just because the hurricane season's over doesn't mean you can just throw. That's what I don't get. What do people do that bought batteries and flashlights? Do they give them away? I don't get it.
Well, one thing we do know for sure is that, at least as of right now, Hurricane Irma is we're recording this on Wednesday, September the 6th, at about 10:45. So we're expecting that we might get that 11 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center, as we're speaking. So if you're listening to this on Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, that's the information that we're going to go with. But nonetheless, we got to talk about UCF and how Irma is going to affect things and what lies in the week ahead. So let's go ahead and dive in here real quick on this. So the big news of the day, obviously Hurricane Irma is on its way. We're more than likely going to see some effect of it. So everything was being put into position by state government in the state of Florida, county governments, local governments everywhere. And so the UCF football game against Memphis, which was originally scheduled for Saturday at, I believe, 8 p.m. Is that right, Eric?
Yes.
8 o'clock kickoff on ESPN News was moved to Friday at 6:30. Friday, September the 8th, 6:30 p.m. at Spectrum Stadium. Moved up a little bit more than 24 hours, basically 25 and a half hours moved up in order to get, ostensibly because, you have a lot of staff that you have to get into that stadium to put on the game. Okay. And that includes a lot of emergency personnel, ambulances, police, fire. People have to be in position for that. When the governor released his state of emergency, that's one of those things where those people have to be in position for storm relief. So it kind of puts a real tax on the first responders that have to be in position to be at the game. So here's what UCF did. They moved it to 6:30. Parking lots open at 5. There will be no tailgating. No tailgating. All the family weekend activities are canceled. If you had tickets to stuff that you had paid for, if you had, for example, if you had a single game ticket, they said in the release, a single game ticket to the Memphis game, you can actually trade that in for a ticket to the East Carolina game in October. What else do we have going on here? Oh, so the game also on television was moved from ESPN News to ESPNU. So it will be televised live at 6:30 on ESPNU. And, of course, all the authorities at UCF are in position to make a determination as to what they're going to do. They're not going to cancel classes on Friday. Classes are still on as regular, but there will be no tailgate. The game's going to kick off at 6:30. They're going to get the game in and basically get the hell out of there as fast as they can, because the storm is we're going to start seeing effects of it on Saturday. Wind picking up, some rain, some squalls, and then into Sunday and then into early Monday morning is when we're going to start feeling the effects of it. At least that's what the latest forecasts are telling us right now. So, Eric, my question to you is your thoughts on how UCF handled this. I thought that they handled it about as well as they could, given the fact that these two teams don't have a common bye week, and given how important the game is, and in terms of the overall schedule. I mean, obviously, it's just a football game. We got there are lives at stake when it comes to a storm. But what were your thoughts on how this all went down?
I thought it went well. I think both UCF and Memphis handled this very well. They communicated very well. I think they were in front of this, and had a plan.
Way out in front.
Well, and that's how you have to do this. I mean, as we learned last year from the Florida LSU fiasco, you can't wait till the last minute. I think it's best to just come out and discuss it right away and figure out what your options are. They kind of went through this last year with UCF and Tulane, if you remember. Mm-hmm. They had the same common bye, so that was a simple answer. Hey, let's not worry about it. Let's play on the bye week. And I know some people were critical because it turned out, weather turned out well and all that, but you can't predict that. So
right.
You didn't have that luxury this time around. I know some people have been suggesting, well, couldn't they have – one idea that was thrown out there was, couldn't both teams maybe try to work it out on September 30th? UCF's hosting Maine. Memphis is at Georgia State. Maybe you can kind of do what kind of Florida and LSU did, where they bought off the games they had last year, November 19th, to play the game. Mm-hmm. The problem is, in that scenario, multiple fronts. In that scenario, UCF loses a home game. Even if they replace Maine with Memphis, you lose a home date. Number two, Memphis is on the road at Georgia State, so you got to buy out Georgia State out of that game, basically. Mm-hmm. So my point is, it becomes an expensive process. And I felt all along the league was going to make sure that the game was always going to get played, whether it had been played Friday night, whether it would have been played Saturday morning, maybe in a future date. But I feel the game was going to get played. I never felt that the game was in risk of not being played at all this year because it's a conference game. And at the end of the day, games do get moved on, and eventually, there's a lot of ramifications with these games. So I think it was always going to get played, and I think both sides wanted to play this game, and I think both teams didn't want to look at other alternatives, and they just happened to, the way this is looking, we can sneak this in on Friday. And I think from a UCF's perspective, in a situation like this, I think you're realistic. You're not going to get the big crowds you're used to anyway, because,
right.
Obviously there's a lot of distractions, let's be honest. So to me, the whole thing about the tailgating to me is fine. I think it's a great move because you're right. You don't have a lot of people available to supervise the tailgating. So You know what? Don't have it. And
exactly.
And people are going to be critical of me for saying this comment, but to me, if you're concerned about tailgating, then you're not a real football fan. You're not a real fan. So you seriously have to re-examine your priorities if you're upset about that. Correct. I'm excited that they're playing the game. I'm happy that they're playing the game. I think it's the right move, and they made it's a tough situation. They found a way, and they found leadership, and it was handled very well. And I think both schools deserve credit for that, and I applaud them for making it work. So, it's a tough situation. Certainly this is not ideal. You're certainly going to lose attendance. How much we can get into, but certainly you lose some things. But in the grand scheme of things, those are minor things compared to the alternatives, which would have been trying to reschedule, which would have been a bigger headache, plus more financially expensive.
Right. That would have been basically impossible.
And, there's scenarios. And the reason why I think the game's got to be played. What if you don't play the game and you finish a half game behind first place for the division? Things like that. And that's kind of was the concern last year when Florida and LSU, you remember that if people didn't follow that closely, there were a lot of members in the SEC that were like, wait a minute, that game needs to be played.
Yeah.
And things like that. And there was a lot of pressure and a lot of criticism on how they kind of waited till the last minute, and that's why the game got postponed and stuff. Well, that didn't happen here, and I think the conference and both schools kind of took leadership here and made sure to kind of come to a conclusion that would work for all parties, and I think they've done that.
Update from UCF, by the way. This is the official page, ucf.edu. In anticipation of Hurricane Irma's impact, all academic programs and classes are canceled starting Thursday, September the 7th, to allow for sufficient preparations and travel needs. Faculty and staff should report as usual on Thursday to secure their offices, research, and to take care of other issues. The campus will close on Friday, September the 8th, and remain closed through the weekend and on Monday, September 11th. University facilities will be inaccessible with the exception of Spectrum Stadium for Friday night's football game. Closure includes the Rosen College, Health Sciences at Lake Nona, Center for Emerging Media in downtown. UCF regional locations will follow decisions made by their respective host state college, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So UCF is canceling classes starting on Thursday, and everything's closed Friday and Monday. So, the fact that they were able to get the game in, I think, is a real a tribute to the folks at the American, tribute to Danny White, and also the staff at Memphis for working with us on that one, and we got to give them due credit. So let's talk about the game itself. Here's the weather report for Friday night. Friday we're expecting to see thunderstorms basically all day. In the mid-80s, it's going to be very humid, and then the thunderstorms are supposed to clear out by about 6 p.m. on Friday, and it's going to be a muggy night. High 70s, low 80s, mostly cloudy, humidity above 85%, winds out of the northeast at least about 15 miles an hour. It's going to be a weird environment because I'm pretty sure the attendance is going to be dramatically low. I mean, it's I don't see I can see a few diehards making it. I can see a few Looney Tune students making it. I don't see a lot of people making this game who are anybody other than that, right?
I would agree. I mean, for a combination of reasons you just brought up, it's going to rain. If it does indeed rain all day on Friday, that's just going to tell people, you know what, I just don't want to deal with it. I'm just not. I'd rather just deal with other things. So that's a factor. I mean, that's a factor on a normal weekend, let alone this situation. And I could see certain amount of people just saying, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and, trade our tickets for East Carolina or whatever. So I agree. It's not the first time UCF's been involved in a situation like this. I mean, last year they moved to Tulane, but I mean, I was at 2005. There was a game at the Citrus Bowl where UCF moved because of Wilma. They moved it a night earlier. So it's kind of weird how that happened. So you're right. It's going to be a unique kind of a deal. I would. I mean, I remember the 2011 game against Marshall. I think it was like a tropical depression or a tropical kind of conditions where it was a monsoon.
Yeah, it was. I'm
sure if you Google, and there was about maybe 15,000 at that game or something like that. It's not going to be a huge crowd, but at the end of the day, they're going to get this game, and it's a very important game. I mean, these are two teams that I think they're trying to find each other. By the way, these are two teams that have very, very big games next weekend. Memphis is going to UCLA to play the Bruins, and UCF's got Georgia Tech ahead. So very critical point, big conference game, conference opener, which always has some anxiety. So that, you're going to get that with a conference opener. There's going to, anxiety, there's pressure a little, it's a big game. I mean, both teams think they got to have big aspirations in the league. So, and I think both teams, I think Memphis has got some questions. They're kind of banged up a little bit too. They didn't really look phenomenal as they would have liked in their opener. So it's always interesting to see the improvements from the first game to the second game, and you go from there.
Before we talk football, right as you were saying that, the 11 o'clock advisory, 11 p.m. Eastern advisory from the National Hurricane Center came
Wednesday night for those.
Wednesday night.
We're recording this Wednesday night, so if you're listening to this, for example, on Thursday, this could be drastically different by the time you listen to this. So
I'm going to dive in on my my old job when I did weather at Toccoa. So
I've been told about this. Yes, you've got me to. Yes, I've been told you.
Listen, I am not a meteorologist. I just played one on television. The location of the storm, 19.1 north, 66.1 west. Maximum sustained winds still at 185 miles an hour. That is unbelievable. Moving west-northwest at 16. Right now it's just to the north of San Juan, Puerto Rico. It's basically the 72-hour track, according to the National Hurricane Center, says it basically shows it moving in between the Bahamas island chain and sort of that line that's the northern coast of Cuba and Hispaniola. And it's going to be basically just north of the middle part of Cuba by 2 p.m. on Saturday. So that's the 72-hour forecast track, which if you know a thing or two about hurricanes, and we both grew up in South Florida, that's pretty definite. Then they expect it to take a turn north, and in the 96 and 120 hour forecast, they expect it to more or less the center of the storm right now to sort of hug the coastline. 2 p.m. Sunday, basically on top of Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. 2 p.m. Monday, they expect it to be up north of Jacksonville, just off of the southern Georgia coast, which, if you draw a line from 2 p.m. Sunday to 2 p.m. Monday, that would take it right over Cape Canaveral. Now Cape Canaveral is a good 35, 40 miles as the crow flies away from where we are in East Orlando, where UCF is. So, but it is still expected to be a major hurricane. Exactly what category it is at that point, we're not exactly sure. Well, but they're expecting at least 110 mile an hour sustained winds.
And again, it's very, who knows?
Right.
By the time, this thing could change.
This track has been moving a little bit east, but we don't know how much. We don't know, overnight when they send the airplanes out they don't send the airplanes out at night. But,
well, just remember Tuesday, they were thinking more westerly, right? Like more western of the states. So
Tampa was starting to get nervous, yeah.
Right. So who knows? I just you just take care of your business.
Keep an eye
good
on
news is,
the National Hurricane Center, of course. That's the first place you want to go.
Absolutely, and you just kind of do what you got to do, take care of business. Now, as far as the game itself, I think you make it interesting. You brought up something. You don't think there will be, and who knows, but the weather should be okay during the game. You feel like? Do you feel confident in that?
It'll be wet and muggy, but it won't be raining.
And that's significant. And the wind shouldn't be a factor like it would have been had the game been played Saturday. And that could be a factor from a special team standpoint. Obviously, things could change from that standpoint. But certainly, look, from the football game standpoint, I think UCF wants to get off to a good start like they did against FIU, play from ahead, establish the run, and, let Mackenzie Milton be accurate and make big plays off the passing game. And I think that was the big confidence booster from the FIU game is you felt confident now that you could get points out of the passing game because the running game was not great. I don't think they blocked as well as they would have liked. That was so those are a couple of things to look for in this football game is how does this team, from a blocking standpoint, can they run the ball better? And can McKenzie continue that kind of sharp start and against a Memphis team that's got certainly, I think, a better, more talented athletes on the defensive side of the ball than FIU does, or at least from a depth standpoint. But they've got their questions as well. So, and Memphis has a great offense. So, this is going to be an interesting game. And I wouldn't be surprised, really, a stat that maybe a lot of people don't focus on a lot. Red zone defense could play a big role in this game. I think both teams will move the football. It could come down to who can get touchdowns when they get into the red zone and who settles for field goals or get turnovers on downs or turnovers.
Yeah, make sure you check out blackandgoldbanneret.com because our own Brian Murphy, who we were hoping to have on tonight, but he couldn't make it, we'll definitely have him on very, very soon. He has our cram session preview up on the story or on the game, and he had some pretty good keys for both squads. Obviously UCF's offense, success on the ground is going to be key for them. For the defense, for Memphis's defense, he said that they really do have to cover the back end, look out for guys heading deep. All the guys on the outside that UCF can throw to that we saw just wreaked havoc on FIU in that opener. And what a game, 61 points. You can't. You can't really do much more than that. When Memphis has the ball, the key for UCF's defense, according to Brian Murphy, is to keep your eye on Ferguson, their quarterback, to make sure that you at least corral him. And then for Memphis, again, test the UCF secondary. Riley Ferguson's out there. He's got Anthony Miller as wide receiver, and we saw some holes in that UCF secondary in that FIU game. So UCF is a 1.5 point favorite, they open as a 1.5 point favorite. Now they're favored by 3. Really high over under 69, Eric. Yeah, both offenses potent. I think they expect a high scoring game. I'm not surprised. Think about it. A 45-31 game puts it over. So right.
I'm not surprised. And I think, I think UCF wins this game because of their defense. I think their defense will make enough plays in this game. And I do think that the running game will be better this week. And I think Milton will continue to play well. There's a lot of weapons. I think they have more weapons than Memphis. And I do think, a day shorter. It's a game in Orlando. Memphis is the team that's traveling. I think it's going to be a heck of a football game. I've actually said, other than USF, obviously, because of the rivalry and everything like that, I think Memphis is the best home game on the slate, and Memphis might be just as good as USF in the league. So I'm looking forward to it. I think we'll learn a lot of where UCF is as far as in the conference after this ball game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, we can't understate really the importance of the football game in terms of the schedule, like we mentioned, with This being the second game of the season, Memphis is expecting to be a contender in the American. Obviously, UCF wants to get themselves into that conversation here. Having this game at home, I just think it's going to be a weird game, just based on sort of the ominous nature of the storm coming. The crowd environment, I think, is going to be a little unusual. I would like to see some of the students who haven't left town, at least make their way over and support the team. And some of the local fans too as well, but don't eschew your preparations for the storm in favor of that. You got to take care of what you got to take care of. So again, 6:30, and also this game. A quick note: it got moved from ESPN News to ESPNU, so that is another thing that's going to be key. One other thing I wanted to just get out there in terms of UCF has this really great article up on UCFKnights.com right now called their Irma Game Day FAQs. Okay, so why at 6:30? Number of factors, travel considerations for Memphis. Playing the game as early as possible allows law enforcement and first responders who are working the game to get out of there and get to their pre-storm prep. Allows for fans attending the game for pre-storm preparations. And the stadium, people forget this. The stadium, and the rest of the campus needs to be secured after the game. And so everyone has to get out of there. They got to, make sure that everything's locked down at the stadium, closed up, and all that kind of stuff. Right. That's a key. Everyone forgets, you don't just walk out of the stadium and then shut out the lights and it's over. You got to get people out there to clean it up because there's debris. We're expecting probably, at least, certainly sustained hurricane force winds. Correct. And, you got to get people out there to clean everything up, lock everything down. I remember actually, I forget what was the storm, but we had to, one year when I was working in the video department, we had to sandbag our control room because of the runoff that was taking. I think there was a tropical system that was coming through. I think I had just started there in 2008, and they were just basically just starting to clean up things after that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of considerations that, have to go into place. So, listen, if you're going to the game and you see any folks wearing a UCF polo, you see your first responders out there, police, fire, whatever, just say, hey, thanks for helping us out today, and give them a pat on the back because, obviously we're all going to have a rough weekend ahead of us, but those folks are really going to have a rough weekend ahead of them. So, just bear that in mind. So, 6:30 p.m. ESPNU. I will be watching on TV in that game. So, normal traffic patterns, by the way, for pregame and postgame too. So, all right. Any last second prediction other than you think it's going to be a shootout? You got a score for me, Eric, or what? Brian, by the way, to his credit, he put his score prediction was UCF 40, Memphis 35. What do you have?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same ballpark as he is, 44-34. Let's go 44-34.
I'm going to go 41-38 us.
All right.
So close game. I think it is going to be close, but we may have a thriller. I hope we do. I hope we do for the television audience on Friday night. So we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll just update you real quick on all the other sports happening at UCF once again. So stick around. The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is back after this.
Hello, Night Nation. I'm Andrew Fegley.
And I'm Trey Strelko. Where are we? This isn't our usual spot.
It looks like we've landed in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of those guys.
Nightline has UCF sports covered.
Week in and week out, we bring you interviews with newsmakers and in-depth analysis of UCF sports.
Subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure to subscribe to Nightline on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter at UCF_Nightline.
Trace, can we go back to the 1148 studios now and start working on our next all-new Nightline?
How do we get out of here? Go Knights!
Charge on.
Now back to you guys in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Okay, welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast here. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez with you on the eve of, not the eve because we're recording this on Wednesday, September the 6th, but 2 days before UCF's football game with Memphis, which was moved up, of course, due to Hurricane Irma, and some quick updates for you on some other sports. that we wanted to pass along. Men's soccer, congrats to Coach Calabrese. On Monday at Jacksonville, the Knights win 4-0. Hat trick for Matias Puzzolo. And Coach Calabrese gets his first career win as UCF's head coach on Monday at 7 p.m. Against the Jacksonville Dolphins. The Knights had their Friday game against Charlotte, which was supposed to be their home opener for Coach Calabrese. That got canceled due to bad weather. The Knights are currently 1-2 on the season. They are heading to West Virginia on Saturday, so they'll be out of town when the storm hits. The new home opener, here's where it gets interesting, Elo, is scheduled for Tuesday, September the 12th, 7 p.m. against FIU, which is Coach Calabrese's old team.
Well, we'll see what happens, right? Hopefully.
Assuming that game still gets played.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll see. I don't know. I'm not even going to speculate, but
I'm hoping they get it in. I don't know what the travel plans are quite for the team, out in West Virginia. I hope that they just stay up there.
I'm sure they've got all that figured out.
Right.
I would be
stay up in the mountains. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah, do what you got to do.
One other team that is on the road this weekend, thankfully out of town, volleyball is going to be in Conway, Arkansas. They're at the Central Arkansas Classic. They play 2 matches Friday, 11 a.m. against Southern, 6:30 p.m. against Arkansas State, and then Saturday at 2:30 p.m. against Central Arkansas. That's another one of those road trips that Todd Dagenais had to basically pay back to Central Arkansas for when they came here. Their home opener is still scheduled for Friday, September the 15th at 7 p.m. against Virginia. The Knights coming off a 2-1 weekend at the Homewood Suites Sunshine State Classic. They knocked off Florida Atlantic in 4, Florida Gulf Coast, who hosted the tournament, in 4. That was down at Fort Myers before they got swept by Miami. So the Knights right now 3-3 overall. Should get a challenge, I think, from Arkansas State in this tournament. But overall, I think the Knights will be in should come out of that in pretty good shape. Hopefully, they'll be keeping them up in Arkansas for the week as well. Because remember, campus is closed, so what are you going to do? So, and then, all right, women's soccer. First of all, standing O to this team right now. So we talked about, we were at that North Carolina game, and then we were worried about the letdown, right, Elo? And yeah. Friday and Sunday, they went out to Arizona. They played in Tempe, Arizona, and they knocked off Arizona 2-1 with 2 late goals on Friday, and then came back and beat Arizona State 2-1 on Sunday. So they're at 4-1 with 3 victories over I guess you could say, supposedly fellow Power 6 schools. But, wow, what a road trip for them. They are scheduled to play Friday as well. But this game got moved up against LSU. This game got moved to 2 p.m. on Friday. So Friday, September 8th, 2 p.m., UCF against LSU women's soccer. But how about that Arizona road trip, man, huh?
Incredible. They had to come from, Arizona match was a kind of a back and forth match coming from behind hot conditions, about 100 degrees, I believe. Humidity was high. And I watched the Arizona State match. That was on Pac-12 networks. And I was a bit of a goof because I was tweeting, because I was watching the match live, but I was watching it on Pac-12 network Arizona because on my cable system, I have all the Pac-12 channels. And for some reason, when the UCF game popped up on my cable guide, it popped up first on the Pac-12 network Arizona. Mm-hmm. So I kept saying, it's on Pac-12 network. And, then I put in Arizona, but it was on the Pac-12 network. I was just being a goof. It was a fun match. They jumped out to the 2-0 lead, 2 goals in that second half after a scoreless first half. Held on. Arizona State got a goal on a bad giveaway by UCF. It was aided a goal, and they made it 2-1, and then they held off Arizona State for the last 5-10 minutes. Huge success on the road, balanced scoring, balanced attacking, big. A phenomenal start you just feel like this team has playing with more confidence, and watching the Arizona say, I got a sense they're playing with a lot more confidence. And that happens when you beat a team like North Carolina. Now they're going to host LSU out of the SEC. And, they got certainly an afternoon game. I'm guessing, Jeff, they moved that game up. And, I don't know this for a fact, but I have traveled with sports teams before. I could see a scenario, my guess, I wouldn't be surprised if LSU either A, maybe with this change, was able to get a flight out of here Friday night out of Orlando to New Orleans, which is easy. Orlando, I mean, I've done that trip. It's, that's a pretty quick flight. Or maybe they've kept their flight on Saturday morning, and maybe they moved up the game because of the football game. But regardless, it's a good move either way. And that's a good test, too, and a big test with an LSU team as you try to build your resume, because these do matter, from an RPI standpoint. And yes, you want to do well and try to win the league, but maybe this gets you, if you can have a big, impressive resume, you could be hosting multiple games in the NCAA tournament if you can get in.
One thing I'm a little concerned about is the weather with that game, because remember, we're expected to see some thunderstorms in the area.
That's right.
And, we know how that is, so that may push the game back.
Well, it depends. The question will be, they'll play in rain. Lightning is what they won't play.
Lightning is a problem, right?
Correct. So that's something to keep in mind. And they, heck, we were there. The North Carolina game, it rained before the match, and then it was kind of sprinkling, but still some soft rain, in the first half of that match. Obviously, that's the key to look forward to there. If it's raining but not lightning, they'll play. Unless it's like a monsoon or something like that, and it's not playable. But if it's rain, that they can play, and they'll play. But if there's lightning, you're right, that will kind of push everything back. So let's hope for the best on that.
I'm also, one other change to the schedule. UCF was scheduled to play FIU down in Miami on Sunday. That's women's soccer. UCF at FIU. That match, of course, has been canceled. Miami is battening down the hatches for Hurricane Irma. UCF's next game after that scheduled home for Florida Gulf Coast on Friday, September the 15th. So we could end up having back-to-back home games with LSU and then FGCU.
A good Florida Gulf Coast team.
Yes.
A good team that's made the NCAA tournament, I believe. I think it was last season.
Out of the A-Sun, that's right.
Then I think they upset USF or something like that in the tournament. So they're very good out of the A-Sun. And yeah, I mean, obviously that'll, that's a good stretch here before conference.
So here we are. So let's go ahead and finish this out here as we, we're going to get back to battening down our hatches here in preparation for Irma. Eric Lopez, where can people follow you?
Eric Lopez Elo on Twitter. Just follow me there, and you can find out what I'll be doing. Because I'll be honest, as I'm talking to right now, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I don't know. I mean, I'll probably be at the football game, but at the same time, I got to take care of some things. Obviously, I have concerns with family and friends up in down in Miami. Which, and again, I mean, let's put that in perspective. Depending where you're listening to on this, obviously everybody's kind of concerned and everything, but certainly, certainly hope for the best down there, because that's. I went through Andrew. I was down there for Andrew, and that's 25 years ago.
Fun.
No, so I'm more concerned down for our friends than families down south, and I'm sure a lot of our audiences are. And let's just kind of everybody get along and just kind of hope for the best on this. But that's really all. That's really what I'm hoping for, to be honest. That this kind of turns out better, and that we can next time we talk, Jeff, on this, that we'll have positive things to talk about, more positive tone and more positive things.
Amen. And to all you Knight fans out there who are listening, please, please, please heed the warnings of your local and county and state officials for everything that may be happening. Anyone who may be in the area, if you're down in South Florida, if you're along the coast, and you folks out in West Florida too, because we really don't know where this thing's headed. So.
This all applies to everybody.
A real crapshoot out there, so everyone just be ready.
That's all you can do. Prepare, and distract yourself a little bit too. Once you take care of things, the football game. If you go to the game, you're going to go to the game. If you don't, then watch it on TV, listen on the radio, and you got soccer and volleyball to follow as well a little bit. So let's just hope for the best there.
Right, all the best to all Knight fans out there, and everybody who may be within earshot of this one. as Irma bears down on us here on the Sunshine State. You can follow us at UCF_Banneret. You can follow me at Jeff_Sharon. You can follow Eric, of course, at Eric Lopez Elo. You can also like us on Facebook. And also don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn as well. So thanks again to you, Eric. Please be safe out there, all right? Stay in touch with me.
Same to you.
All right, and thanks to you, all you Knight fans listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Everyone hunker down. We'll get through it together. We will. We'll catch you again next week. Hopefully without having to do too much cleanup in the meantime. All the best. Hang in there, and we'll talk to you on the other end of Hurricane Irma.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.